Welcome to On the Spot with the 422 Business Alliance. We're a group of like-minded local business people who are working to grow our businesses, ourselves, and our connections to each other and our clients and communities. In this series, we'd like to introduce you to our members. I'm Donna Botti of Delos Incorporated in Collegeville, and with me today is Bryan Saylor. Bryan is a certified financial planner at High Point Financial. It's a financial planning and wealth management firm. Bryan, can you give us maybe a quick intro on what you do and for who? Like, who needs a wealth management firm and why?
Yeah. So I think you said a bit of it. I do financial planning and wealth management for individuals, for families, for business owners, for even some nonprofit organizations locally. And I think the answer to your question is, all different types of folks need wealth management firms, right? But I think the ones that come to mind are folks that lack the will, the skill, or the time to do this on their own.
So what does that involve? Like when you say wealth management?
Yeah. So I think
financial planning, even, it's something that's like, I'd like some wealth management.
Yeah. Well, I think it involves different things for different people, but I think, for the most part, it's about sort of looking out at the world of finance, having a process for understanding what's important to people and why it's important, and then helping them find solutions to meet the goals that they have.
So how did you come to do this and to start High Point?
Sure. Yeah. So I started this almost 20 years ago. It's crazy how that time has gone by here. But I started out of school with an economics degree. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I went to Vanguard, where it seems like half the population from around here ends up. And, I ended up moving into a financial planning role, really just based in the fact that I was curious. And I needed to know answers to the questions that people had for me. So I was taking phone call after phone call. People just had a lot of questions that I couldn't answer, and I always wanted to go back and look into them. So about 10 months in, I decided I'm going to start studying for the Certified Financial Planner designation, which I think is really the premier designation in our industry. And, I ended up spending about, another 8 years at Vanguard doing planning for people. I moved to Fidelity in downtown Center City, and worked in a sales role there for a couple of years. And then back in 2015, decided I wanted to start my own practice, and jumped out with a larger financial planning firm. And just a couple of years later, we decided that, we could do this in a different way and probably better for our clients. So we created High Point Financial in 2017. And, we've been growing our business considerably ever since.
Sounds like you have a lot of experience in what you do. So why don't you tell me something like about your industry that people don't really know about, but you think that they should?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there are probably a number of different things I could say here. I'd say the one that comes to mind right now is the fact that, people oftentimes aren't going to work in the same job for their entire career. They're often working
Especially
somewhere.
Not today.
That's right. These days, people move, right? Especially right now, we've got a lot of mobility in the labor markets. And so, people leave and they start their new job and they forget, hey, look, I've got this old 401k kind of sitting out there. And I think that's fine, but I think, if you're sitting there after 4 or 5 jobs and you've got a bunch of different 401ks going out there and you haven't consolidated them, I think what you're probably missing, besides simplifying your world, is the fact that there's a whole lot of expenses, extra expenses involved when your money's sitting in a 401k. And forget the fact that, you may not want to be invested still that same way. Maybe you picked a target retirement fund or something like that, but there are extra fees there. You're paying an advisor to create the fund lineup in that 401k. You're paying a third-party administrator to do all the background administration. You're paying a record keeper to do, all of the testing and potentially audits. There's a whole lot of extra expenses there. And I think they forget how important expenses are when you just think about compounding over years and years and years.
Can you elaborate a little bit on compounding in case people aren't familiar? with that concept and how much it can make a difference?
Right. So us investment geeks, we like to talk about terms like that, but compounding is, I think, a sort of a concept around just the idea of growing year after year, especially without paying taxes on those earnings, and the impact that can have as you extend the time horizon. It's really that simple.
I started saying this, money makes money, right?
Right. Earnings on earnings. That's right.
So if you are losing out some potential earnings because of fees and things like that, then you can actually really impact how much you end up with when you retire.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just think about, paying 2% for something that you could pay really 1% for in terms of the ongoing costs. And if you just think about, that 1% in the 1 year, and then multiplying that out of year after year after year, you just think about it after, you look back on your career 25 years later, the impact that 1% had. And so, my thought is, for some people, they could do it on their own. And for some people, they might say, hey, look, if I'm going to pay for anything, I'm going to pay to get, good guidance and financial planning and help with choosing investments and all the other stuff that comes along with the financial planning process.
I like the idea of the simplifying too, because you get all these different shareholder things and notifications, and it's just a lot less to keep track of. Yeah. So what's something different, though, would you say, about how you approach your clients?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that there's advice in this world comes from all different types of directions. And I often think about sort of, what about what I provide is different than any of that? And I think, I often think of myself as really a problem solver and a solutions provider. I'm really good at sort of thinking about, in the context of today's environment, what solutions make the most sense. And there's all different types of solutions that exist out there. Solutions that are investment products, insurance products, banking products. And then I think beyond the products piece, there's a whole lot of financial planning techniques that can save people a lot of money and help them grow their wealth in a different way. And so my clients come to me, Donna, they come to me with questions like, hey, can I retire? And if I can, how am I going to do this? How am I going to prepare this income stream? And they come to me with questions about, look, I'm making a considerable amount of money each year, and how can I protect against taxes? It feels like they're killing me on taxes. Or I've got these various forms of stock compensation. I've got, stock options or RSUs, and, what's the best way to figure those into the planning that I'm doing? And my job is to help them through, going through a process to understand, all that's going on in their financial situation, and be a partner in that. And then I think what I'm really good at is my process for researching solutions. And like I said before, there's I think your basic ones, and there's a whole lot of other solutions that exist out there that people that lack the will, skill, and time they don't know about. I think about this one situation I had a couple years back with an existing client of mine who was sitting on a very large position in a healthcare stock, and his intention was to give that to his kids and not ever pay taxes on the gains. He had considerable gains. He had a very low basis, or he hadn't paid a lot for that stock, but it had grown over the years big time. And that year, that company was being purchased by another company. And in that process, they were going to sell and give him cash for a lot of his shares. So he was looking at a huge, huge tax bill. And that client was also charitably inclined. That client was giving some of his money away each year, but doing it just by writing checks. And I said to him, hey, look, it seems to me like you're going to be charitably inclined for years to come. And you've got a huge tax problem this year. Have you ever heard of this thing called a donor advised fund? And so really the idea was he was able to give that stock all in 1 year to a donor advised fund, which is a charity itself, take the tax deduction in that 1 year to offset some of those tax problems he was going to have, and then use that donor advised fund to continue and invest and give that money out for his lifetime and for even for his kids. He really created kind of a private foundation. And I think about these types of solutions, and that's what makes me feel good about the difference that we're creating at High Point.
That's great. And I think it's something, yeah, I mean, again, who has the time to research? The stuff's always changing and there's different options. So how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, just www.highpointfinforfinancial.com. Connect with me on my business page on Facebook. Just search Bryan Saylor CFP. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Come visit the 422 Business Alliance. There's probably a number of ways.
Great. Well, thank you, Bryan, for joining me today.
Thanks, Donna. I appreciate it.